on the Métis. Okay, there we go. Which is one of the Métis settlements on the Victoria Métis settlement here in Alberta. That's kind of a unique thing here in Alberta to have these Métis settlements. I don't think that you might be familiar with them in the east, but I am in a little piece of heaven here with the North Saskatchewan River running right beside me. But as you can see on the screen, and we're going to talk a little bit later about why we think land acknowledgements are so important, but you'll see on the screen that Treaty 6 is a home of the Blackfoot, the Cree, the Dene, Nakota Sioux, Saulteaux, and many others who have traveled across these lands for many, many years. And it's also part of Métis Region 4, and I'm physically there today. We know that you're not here, that you're not on Treaty 6, that you're actually on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is also home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. John, who is just an incredible co-chair, did take the time to look up some potential land acknowledgements for the Toronto area that we'll share with you a little bit later in the presentation. But I wanted to say to you when I talk to you today about why it's so important to do land acknowledgements, and we'll get into that in more detail. But when I do my land acknowledgement, I try not to just read out the territory that we're from or the names of the Indigenous people who lived here, but to think about the true meaning of it. And for me, it is really about honoring the amazing connection that the Indigenous people have to the land. And also with an enormous amount of gratitude for how they've safeguarded this land and allowed us to share it. And you know, I don't know about you, but as I went through COVID, I really started to pay a whole lot more attention to Mother Earth. You know, I did, what else could we do? But we were out walking and watching the seasons change. And, you know, you see what's happening with all the environmental changes. It just makes you really think how important it is for us to safeguard that. And I appreciate the First Nations who came before us and did that. I also think land acknowledgements are an intentional act of relationshiping. So what I mean by that is that we're reaching out and saying, we want to walk alongside you. We want to better understand, and we will take some steps towards those calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So those are things that I think about when I do that. I also think about how connected the principles within Indigenous cultures are to the work of Rotary. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. So that's us here on Treaty 6 with John in Edmonton, also known as Beaver Hills. So just a quick thing about our mission here of the work that John and I do with the district Indigenous community. And I'm both happy and a little embarrassed to tell you that we've been doing this, not John, but me, for probably more than 8 years. And it has been a work in progress. And I'd love to say we're farther along than we are. We're getting there, but it did take a lot. And where this came from is we had a district governor a few years back who said, you know, Rotarians do amazing work. We're incredible philanthropists, but often we're doing our work internationally. Maybe we're going, like in the case of my club, or maybe we're going to Belize to build a playground for kids, or helping out in other incredible ways. But yet at the same time, we have people in our city, in our province, living in third world conditions. How can we encourage Rotarians to do the similar kind of work right here at home? So that's what we set out to do. And our mission, as you can see, is to support the members of all the clubs in District 5370, to help them to understand, to build relationships with, and work with Indigenous people, agencies, and communities. And we really do believe that, as I mentioned, this really does, in fact, embody the values and the essence of Rotary. But it really does take a change in focus, approach, and emphasis, as it says on the screen, to respect the worldviews, rights, and diversity of our many Indigenous people. And I just wanted to point out that we had to think about this in a very different way. We had to think about what Indigenous people have been telling us for a long time, and you've heard this before, it's nothing about us without us. And we needed to think about stepping away from the charity model, where we, with resources and privilege, decide what we think other people need and then impose it upon them, because that does not work well in Indigenous communities. So John, I know you're going to go to the next slide. But I thought that maybe, just so that we're not going back and forth too much, because John's going to speak to this in a second. And then I'm just going to talk about building of a land acknowledgement, then I'll toss it back to John. But I think one of the other things that's really important, and I know this is a huge principle of Rotary and something we respect very much, is our district committees are there to support clubs, not to tell them what to do. So they're totally autonomous. They can do what they like, but they have asked us to provide some support. And you can see some of the ways that we can provide support through the committee. We found out very early on that in order to encourage Rotarians to start to work with Indigenous communities, we needed to build an understanding. We found out that many Rotarians didn't really understand the history of Canada as it related to Indigenous people. They didn't know about the Indian Act. They didn't know much about residential schools. They didn't know very much about the 60s scoop, all of those kinds of things. And so to their credit, we knew that we needed to help raise that awareness. And I think I really need to give credit to my co-chair on this, to John, because he set out to create a series of speaker series that have significantly enhanced Rotarians' understanding of what the history is of Canadian Indigenous people. So you can see up there, and John will speak a little bit more to it, but it's really about building awareness and encouraging clubs to build those relationships. And I'm going to leave it at that. And you don't have to go to the slide, John, because we'd have to go all the way through it. But I just wanted, because I was talking now about land acknowledgements. And we've had to struggle with various clubs too. And people have asked why. Why is it important to do land acknowledgements? You may or may not have asked that. But as I said, to me, it's really just a first step in relationshiping and in working towards reconciliation. And how do you go about building it? That's a couple of things that we wanted to just quickly chat with you about. And so first of all, what is it? Why do we do it? Well, simply, as you heard me say, it's just a reminder that we share and collectively depend on the land with our Indigenous people. It's a reminder of the history of peoples on the land and our desire to develop relationships with them. So that's that intentional act of relationshiping. Now here, who is it for? And this is something we also get asked quite often. And it really is to be said, and my elders and knowledge keepers have told me that it is something that non-Indigenous people do, because Indigenous people already recognize the strong connection to the land. So we, as colonizers, we as the newcomers here, we are the ones that are recognizing, acknowledging, and appreciating the land. So it should be done by a non-Indigenous person. It really is also so that we can signal our openness to understanding and to recognizing the people who came before us, and it helps us to guide our work with Indigenous leaders. So how is it done? Now, we've seen it done many different ways, and I'm sure you have too, but nothing is more irritating to people than to just get up there and say, I'm on the lands of Treaty 6, and list off all of the peoples that walked there before, and then sit down and make no connection to why we're doing it. So ideally, it should be something that's very personal, reflecting the individual, yourself, or your organization, in this case, Rotary, perhaps. I've seen some amazing land acknowledgements where people talk about where they came from, whether they came from a British colony, whether they are a newcomer here from an African country. It's just an amazing way to build relationship with others as they explain how they came to live in our beautiful country and to live in Turtle Island. So trying to personalize it is hugely important. And as you're building it, we really recommend that you work with local Indigenous knowledge keepers and elders who will help you to guide your ideas around it. And it should be dynamic and changing as things evolve. And John and I do this often. So for example, today, you might have made a connection to the International Indigenous Peoples Day. There might be something in the news around the tragedies or the residential school graves, sort of being aware of your surroundings, how those impact Indigenous people, and trying to personalize it that way. So the key elements are really around the relationship to the land, and understanding of that, understanding that these are legal treaties that govern the land. Many people don't understand that. As descendants of the signatories of it, we are all treaty people, and I think that's important to say. It's important to acknowledge what Indigenous people, what relationships, who are there, as we mentioned, and what I like to always look at, what resonates with the core mission of your organization. So we really recognize just how much this resonates with the core values of Rotary. And that seems to resonate very well with people as we look at, the 4-way test and the natural laws of Indigenous people. You'll see the very many similarities around it. John, I won't get you to put this up, but I want you to know, and we can certainly share this with you after. As I mentioned, John had created a couple of land acknowledgements that he found that are used by the City of Toronto and also by the University of Toronto that could help you, if you so desire, to create a land acknowledgement for your Rotary Club. So John, I've talked a lot there. I want to shoot it back to you. And so we have lots of time left for questions. And I'll mute myself.
Thanks, Jan. Just check that you can hear me, that I'm not muted. Thank you. So we've talked a little bit about land acknowledgements, and what we'll do is just shift a bit about what our values are, that linkage that Jan's talked about, and how this relates to relationships and relationship building. So, we talk about our values. I drew this from the web: fellowship, integrity, diversity, service, leadership. And those values, as Jan said, are very relatable to what's going on with Indigenous people, but it's also connects with our obligation to learn about Indigenous people, to learn from Indigenous partners, which is part of the diversity and fellowship, to see our connectedness. And one of the things we realize when Jan talks about the linkage to the land is that it is a far greater connectedness than we know in our culture. And so learning about this culture of what in Cree is called Wakotawin, which is the connectedness of all of us as people, all of us as land, all of that draws on a different way of thinking about what some of these relationships mean. Jan often talks about two-eyed seeing, looking at the world through different viewpoints, and how powerful it is when we step outside our own way of thinking to look at somebody else's way of thinking and learn from each other. So as Jan said, it's not about us without us, but also there's an obligation on us as non-Indigenous to learn. Again, this richness of diversity, when we look at it from our own perspective, we are often analytic, focusing on parts rather than on wholes. We're often driven by deadlines. Many of the meetings we've had are, how do we quickly get to the agenda? How do we move through it and get to an answer? We're often didactic, just as I am now, talking to you one-to-many. We're focused on being decisive, directive, human-centric, individualist, and often written. And in contrast, an Indigenous world is much more holistic and systemic. It's connected. They think not in so much in terms of deadlines and urgencies, but in terms of long timelines. 7 generations is often a hallmark of how does this play out for our ancestors and for those to come. Generative, pulling out of a conversation new ideas as opposed to trying to convince people of the ideas that we already bring in. Inclusive, and again, this natural human spirit world that is more collective and in an oral tradition. And that diversity helps us understand, if we embrace it, a different way of understanding people, understanding the world. As Rotarians, we are not only espousing values, we're putting them to work. Someone who spoke to us said, we understand Rotarians as the people who do. And that's wonderful. But I just highlight here, we provide service to others, we take action, we work on projects, and we look on opportunities to improve. And just building on what Jan said about what is the model, rather than working for and to, thinking about working with. So if, it can be really already understood, but I just wanted to highlight moving from service to service with, from taking action as a club to working in joint action on the things that are important to an Indigenous community, from working on specific projects, sometimes where we come with the answer, here's a project that we'd like to do, to moving to a relationship from which the projects come, or from which a series of projects come. And our view of improve may or may not be the same as what an Indigenous view is. So we need to look at what are their goals and metrics in terms of what they're seeking to achieve. And again, moving from the analytic, breaking it down to individual group items, to thinking holistically about how do these things work in tandem? How do they connect with other things? Again, Jen kind of alluded to this, but one of our speakers talked about this as a process of moving from, with constant learning, from listen and learn to walking with and learning to working with and learning. And again, our bias is to jump into action. And this is, let's learn first, learn what people want to do, walk with them so we earn some trust, and work with them. I had an experience where we'd been working with someone for quite a while, and I said, I'd like to talk about projects. She said, first, we have to build a relationship. It was a shock to me because I thought we'd been building that relationship for a while, but we had not yet. And that was a lesson to me about taking time and being very deliberate at building relationship. As Rotarians, you build relationships all the time. I think the main thing here is not to, there are books and there's training that will talk about relationship building. What I've found is starting by asking questions, starting from an attitude of respect, not that we have the answers, but that we can learn, working humbly, because the things we will try will be wrong at times, but continuing with an intention to learn. It takes time. It's an investment of time in earning trust. And it means co-developing, sometimes co-developing an understanding of the problems, not simply the solutions. And the other thing is to deliver on what we say we'll do. And I say these things having made all of these mistakes in relationships of doing things on short time frame, trying to come in with answers, and having the people deal with me with grace as I learn through the process. So we've talked a lot. Jan's talked about the ideas of land acknowledgement. And so I think we've covered most of this. One of the things that I note, though, is land acknowledgements can take various forms. And I remember one webinar where some Indigenous people said, you know, if you're doing a play, you might simply say from the stage, wonderful to be in this place where we've had plays for millennia. You know, it doesn't have to be a long drawn out, but it does have to be personal and responsive to your circumstance. And we will share these, but these are online, what the City of Toronto or the University of Toronto does to acknowledge the territory. Jan, do you want to talk about honoring Indigenous people?
Yeah, I'll just talk really quickly about this one slide. Probably people on this call are aware of honoring Indigenous people because it began in Ontario in 2014, as you can see from the Southern Ontario Rotary Clubs, who had a vision that we could create a countrywide partnership with Indigenous people. And basically what it is 20 members from across the country, half are Indigenous, half are Rotarians, half are male and half are female, including our co-chairs. And we come together to work to find better ways to work together. We're working now. I'm a member of that, very fortunate and honored to be part of that group. We're really trying to refocus our energy on emphasizing relationship building, even though we will continue our education and awareness activities. But as John and I are finding as we evolve, you know, once we've shared the information and people understand the history, and the current situation with Indigenous people, it's then that you can move forward to start to build relationships. So that's very much what honoring Indigenous people is trying to do across the country. And it's very exciting because we're learning from each other. It's been a bit difficult because it's been COVID, so we haven't been able to get together, but we're hoping in November that we're going to be able to get together, hopefully in Winnipeg. It has the other one particular program that Honoring Indigenous People did that I think is really worth noting is something called Y2Y. And it was bringing together from all parts of country, including the North, young Indigenous people and young non-Indigenous people together for 4 days for land-based learning. And it was just an extraordinary experience. Took a lot of energy and time to do it, but we're going to do it again next year. So really, the Honoring Indigenous People is about building those relationships from coast to coast. If you want to know anything more about that, or getting involved in any way, or having someone like our Executive Director, John Curry, speak to your club, please feel free. So John, you might want to just go now and talk about Sleep in Heavenly Peace. You're on mute, John.
Sorry about that. So Sleep in Heavenly Peace is a charity that is devoted to providing beds so no children, no kids will sleep on the floor in any community. And I just wanted to walk through this about how relationships work. I had been talking with someone for years. They were part of our speakers series, and they invited us out to the reserve to meet some community leaders, and we toured the school. While we were there, we noted that they had a great shop. Somebody came in to talk to us in Rotary about Sleep in Heavenly Peace and noticed that they were building beds in school shops. And the president of our club said, there's a great school shop at Saddle Lake. Maybe there's an opportunity. So our approach was to go in and not say, here's a program for you, but say, is there a community interest in beds for kids? Is there an opportunity here for the school to build these beds? And what we found was this became owned by the community. They started building a club, and they are now a chapter of Sleep in Heavenly Peace. And they are running that and determining what they want for their community. It's just an example of building relationships and following the relationships with an opportunity and moving into something that actually works as a project over time. So we just wanted to point out that reconciliation fits with our values and service areas, that from our understanding, it's all about relationships that start with respect, build with questions, and our honest talks about what is possible. I'm very sensitive that we're speaking from a different place, and there are different traditions, protocols, and priorities for Indigenous people in different places. The focus for us is approaching with humility and respect, genuinely seeking Indigenous knowledge and helping them to ensure they're controlling what they do. And I've always found they demonstrate considerable grace when we approach them with genuine relationships, even when we mess up. And I am a classic case of having messed up in many different ways and still pursuing this and getting into relationships with Indigenous people. So I just wanted to throw this back to you for questions, comments, and thank you for this opportunity to talk with you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? And just advise everybody you're on mute. So if you want to ask a question.
I would just like to say, of course, to John and Jan, it was really, really very interesting. I'm particularly interested to hear all about the land recognition. But as far as HIP is concerned, HIP, we did a major fundraiser with them a couple of years ago. And we know the people you mentioned extremely well. And it was a very successful event.
Again, a lot of you are on mute. So any other questions, comments?
I just have a comment. First of all, thank you very much for your very informative presentation. We're just so pleased at all the work that is being done right across Canada in support of organizations like HIP. We had the pleasure of helping a group of students from Toronto go to visit a school in Moose Factory. John Curry, along with one of our members, Ganitsi, who's with us here today, accompanied them for, I think, a 1-week visit up in Moose Factory. We had really hoped to be able to invite them down to Toronto, but COVID got in the way. So we'll just have to pick up on that.
Yeah, that was really, really a great experience for them. And I hope that you can pick up on it, because we were very hip disappointed about the break with COVID. Thanks for mentioning that, Mary.
Any other
Jan and
comments?
John, Jan and John, I want to apologize for flubbing your introduction. With the success of your Indigenous Speakers Series, sort of back in COVID, has that led to more, or has it spread, or it was so well done. As I was listening in on it back in those days, I was thinking, this should be national. I know you were doing it for the district, but it was of quality and of importance for Rotary across Canada. I wonder if there's been any interest or any progress in those kind of directions.
Oh, thanks, Ron. We're actually exploring something right now, supporting a grant to turn it into an Indigenous Speakers Series run by Indigenous people. And so move away from Rotary organizing it. And that would be something that could be available beyond simply our district. Again, one of the challenges is the Indigenous experience has some shared aspects across Canada, but it also has some differences. And so the power, I think, and our focus in building the series was to have more local voices so that it was more relatable to the circumstances on the land. For example, the treaty acknowledgement, the land acknowledgement is different in different places, and the understanding of treaties can be different in different places. So we had people that would speak out of the Treaty 6 tradition to people living in Treaty 6. We haven't seen much more take up in terms of speakers, but there are a lot of speakers that we had identified from across Canada that would be great, great to secure.
And I just wanted to also let you know that anyone is welcome to those, as long as the Zoom capacity can hold. So it's not just for our district, people are welcome. And also we do record them. So if you wanted to look at them, we could access for you. And I just want to reiterate again, what an amazing job John did at that. And he's right, we're exploring taking it to another level. But now that COVID is over, we're also exploring some opportunities for Rotarians to have some land-based experience. So there's a new and exciting place in Eglinton that's recently been opened. It's the first of its kind urban Indigenous land that has been set aside for spiritual and cultural activities. And so for one example, Rotarians are going to be able to tour that privately. And we're trying to look at some other ways we can help make introductions between Rotary clubs and Indigenous community leaders. So the speaker series, though, was an essential first step in because people have told us over and over again that they didn't know this, they didn't learn this in history, that this is like new information. So it's been spectacular. I think, as John said, there's differences all across the country, but some of the similarities are good too. So anybody's welcome as we continue to hold them.
And
Ron, you know how to access those speakers, do you? Ron Wild?
Yeah, I was participating live, but if Jan or John could send us the link, we could distribute that to all the rest of the members with our weekly email news bulletin.
We
That'd
can
be
certainly
great.
do that. It's on our YouTube channel now.
When you
Great.
when you talk about relationships with Indigenous people, what are your thoughts about inviting them, encouraging them to join, to become a member of Rotary clubs?
Well, we both can talk to that. I'll start with John and I. There's lots of ways you can do that. I mean, we've had people suggest to us that maybe we should start a separate Indigenous Rotary Club like we did in Edmonton. Some of you will know, Norma, you might remember when they started the Glenora Club that was all women in Edmonton. But, you know, I feel personally, it's my opinion that you're better to have Indigenous people join and be part of the, so they're not kind of ghettoized or put aside as a different group. That is a personal thing though, so I don't want to impose that on anybody else. One of the things that we found is that a couple of things, as Indigenous people as in our province are incredibly in demand. They are pulled in many directions as we all gain understanding. And so often the commitment associated with Rotary can be really hard for them to do because of all those other commitments. The other piece is you want, for me, you want to avoid tokenizing. You want to avoid saying, I want, you know, one Indigenous person to come join my club. So, you know, I think we had success. We had a Rotary Club in a high school here, an Indigenous-led high school called Amisquachee, and I think that started to encourage some Indigenous people. But one of the things is, remember how we said that we needed to understand Indigenous people. Indigenous people need to know what Rotary does too. So we all think everybody knows what Rotary does, not so much. And so what's interesting when I talk to Indigenous people about that, and I talk to them about the particular initiatives that we have around Indigenous issues, they are absolutely fascinated and interested. So I would encourage, you know, if you know people, tell them about the work you do, spread the word about what Rotary does, and you might be surprised. I think the other thing with some of the work that HIP is doing, especially around young people, I think you'll see that there'll be a resurgence of interest because many Indigenous people have now benefited from that. In fact, I don't know, little known fact, you'll know Murray Sinclair, who was the head of the Truth and Reconciliation. His son, who has an Indigenous name, John, I don't know if you can remember his name. He's a CBC radio announcer in Winnipeg. He actually was a Rotary student. He was on one of the Rotary student exchanges, and he always credits Rotary for some of his success in life. So it's you don't know when those little things that you've done have touched people that are going to lead to greater things down the road. But John, you might have more to say on that.
I think you've covered it very well. I think the one thing that also is very good conversation starter is the parallels between the four-way test and the natural laws that Jan referred to. You know, that conversation actually gets things started quite well. But I would echo everything that Jan says, especially about tokenism. We had some members in our club that didn't last very long, partly I think because they found that what was being talked about wasn't necessarily relevant to what they were concerned about. So, you know, again, thinking about it's bringing people in, but it's also making them feel comfortable and welcome with the topics and the conversations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? No? Stephen, would you like to thank our speakers?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much for coming. I know Rotary is heavily involved with Indigenous people, and our club has been over the years, and hopefully will be in the future. But it's a great reminder and a great presentation and the direction we're going. I should add that there's another way of looking at working with Indigenous people, and that is they have so much they can do for us in terms of learning their ways. And I hope we continue in that direction. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay if you'd like. We're going to continue with the business part of our meeting. Or you can leave if you'd like, whichever is suits you the best. I know
I'll just say thank you, and I will send send the deck to Dawn. And if you have any further questions, be pleased to continue the conversation. Thank you.
perfect. I'll
Thank
include
you
that
very
in our
Thank you
report.
for the invite. And also I did commit, I think, to you, if you wanted to explore with me some more discussions around how this links to the human trafficking piece too at another time. We didn't think we could squish it all in, but just to put that out there for an offer. And thanks again. Have a great day, everyone.
Okay, super.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, we're going to, we didn't get to do business last week, so we're going to start with committee reports, and we will do youth and vocational, as well as Josephus here to do community service. So I have a report from Lionel that he gave me last week, and he unfortunately couldn't come today, so I will read it to you. So Mike Hazel's YES program, Youth Engagement Strategy, is being reviewed by the Youth Committee again for compliance to the club's 2022 strategic plan, and will be represented to the board. For personal reasons, Mike Hazel has withdrawn from our club, but will continue to run the leadership development program for the YSO, the Youth Support Organization Scholarship, as part of his youth engagement strategy offsite. The Youth Committee also welcomes any suggestions to the program be passed along to Lionel to be raised at the next youth meeting, which will be Wednesday, August 16th. Nevertheless, as a club, we have a responsibility to pay the $1,000 to each of the recipients of the YES program award winners that Rotary Toronto Eglinton approved to pay in June. So the arrangements are being made to make that payment to them, along with the award certificate, and perhaps have them attend a meeting if we can. The Youth Committee is also investigating any other programs which will satisfy the two pillars of Rotary International areas of focus, those being peace and conflict, prevention and resolution, and basic education and literacy, with the goal of identifying and prioritizing the resources we need to support them. The Youth and Vocational Committee has quite a bit of money in bingo funds, so they're looking for some charities that they could support with their funds, and they don't have to be a registered charity, but they have to be dealing with youth, and it has to be in the city of Toronto. Okay, so if anybody has any ideas, please forward them to the Youth Committee. They have a budget of about $85,000, which includes unused funds from the last couple of years, as well as what we intend to take in this year. So we've got some work to do spending money in the Youth Committee. So that's his report. And Josepha, now if you'd like to do the community service report.
I'm not sure we'll be as challenged with spending bingo funds. I think we'll find plenty of places that could use it. So the Community Service Committee met last night. It was our second meeting of this year. Most if not all of us are seeing a growing demand in our city for food, housing, and addiction support. So the committee agreed that these should be our top and guiding priorities. As mentioned in the July update, the committee will continue to support groups that include the Churches on the Hill Food Bank, the Allen Gardens Food Bank, Nellie's Out of the Cold, Fred Victor, Dismas, Needleworks Guild, New Circles, and Habitat for Humanity. 2 items for every member of the club to have on their radar. One is Walter Sotka will be looking for 5 to 7 volunteers for Out of the Cold, which will start late October, early November. So we will have reminders about this over the next few months. And second, the committee will put together 6 to 8 home starter kits for Fred Victor, which will work out to about 1 every other month. So stay tuned for announcements as well on when we are starting to put together the first one. Dawn has a list that she can circulate to the membership of what items Fred Victor would need for these home starter kits. And that is all for my update.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, and president announcements is upcoming events. Off to the races, Sunday, August 27th. Is that coming along? Registration's still open, isn't it, Stephen?
Yeah, there's 10 more spots. We've got 20 out of 30. And if we go over 30, I can probably get additional spots.
Okay, so there's still more spots available. And save your money for gambling. The annual barbecue is on August 30th.
Sorry, I would just add on the racing. Sorry, I just wanted to add on the racing, I would encourage anybody who hasn't signed up to think about doing so and to get in touch with David Richardson, myself, or Stephen to get their names on the list. Thank you.
Okay, good. The annual barbecue is going to be at Wilka Creek Park, August 30th. That's a Wednesday at noon. Same place we were last year, site number 5, but I'm going to send out that announcement this week for everybody, and you can register in the usual way. And the Toronto East Rotary Club and East York are planning a golf tournament I mentioned before. Tuesday, September the 19th at 8:30 in the morning at Richmond Hill Golf Course, if anybody wants to go or form a foursome. I think we have one foursome that wants to go so far, but and we're going to sponsor a hole which costs $250 so that we have some presence on the course. I think that would be a good idea since we're not one of the sponsoring Rotary clubs. Anyway, if anybody wants to go to that, give me a call, or perhaps we'll send out a notice on that one too, that you could register through the event registration system like you do for launch meetings. And that's about all I have upcoming now. The next meeting will be in person at the Toronto Lawn and Tennis Club. Jennifer Hollett and Laura Levy from Walrus Magazine will be speaking. I've never heard of Walrus Magazine, but it provokes new thinking and sparks conversations on matters vital to Canadians, including politics, environment, business, and society. And it is also going to be the induction of Craig Armstrong as a member. So those things are happening next Wednesday. And I think that's all. If anybody has any more comments or questions for Rotary. No,
I forgot to mention, we have a month left for the TerraCycle campaign. So I will be at next week's meeting in person. So if anyone has oral care products, toothbrushes, dental floss containers, and any of the others that were listed in the flyer that you want to bring and give to me, I will still collect them.
okay, we'll put that in the flyer too for the news follow-up for this week. Good.
Dawn,
Okay.
do we have a board meeting on next Tuesday?
Yes, the next board meeting is August the 15th,
At
7 o'clock.
7
On Zoom.
o'clock. Thank you.
Walter Wells is on. Walter, I'm going to drop a check off for you so you can deposit in the foundation's funds.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Good. Okay, I think we're finished. Thank you all. Have a nice week.
We have the fundraising
meeting,
too, right?
Right.
So members of the committee could stay on. Plus, of course, anybody who would like to hear what's going on. And we're going to talk at some length about the fall fundraiser. That'll be the big talking point at this meeting.
Do you know if Ed's joining us?
I haven't heard at all about him. I know that Mike is not, and there was somebody else who wasn't, but
I just didn't know because we're early. I didn't know if you wanted to send him a message. Let him know we've gotten on early. He may have planned on coming on at 1:30.
I'll keep watching for him.
I'll send him a text now.
Yes, we are finished early.
Oh, we didn't do Happy Bucks.
Oh, yeah, I've got that written down here and we can do it now. Nobody missed it.
I did, but I thought the idea of having a meeting And it really was more important than happy books.
I didn't expect, Ron, that these people from Reach were Rotarians.
Yeah, that's how I came across them, was the Rotary Indigenous Speaker Series.
Oh,
I mean, that's their day job is Reach, but it's really the work they've been doing in the Indigenous area in their district that I thought would be of interest to the club. And I apologize for the screw up on the introduction.
that's too bad. You just, completely you lost connection, did you? Yeah, I kept watching for you because it took a while to get you back. Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to get back on my iPad, couldn't do it, and eventually I came on. I'm on my phone now. I don't know what happened. I'll have to do some research to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Right. Yeah, that's too bad. Well, but they had already sort of been introduced, but I'm sure you had other things to say about them. But yeah, but they were Rotarians, so they were quite flexible. Yeah. Did you hear anything back, Stephen?
Sorry, you're talking to me?
Yes, did you hear anything back? I thought you were going to contact Ed about the meeting.
Oh, I haven't heard back yet. I sent him a text. He hasn't replied.
Okay. Okay, then do you want to start?
Yes, I'm just sending Walter Wells. And then we should start. Okay. All right. Okay, let's go. All right, I haven't heard from Sarah. I'd invited Mark Yagani. Haven't heard from him. Anna
I told you
Chet-
he's not. I told you he's not well, right?
Who?
Mark.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I'd also invited Anna Chet, but she's traveling or something.
Mm.
So, I mean, the first question actually was one for Ed or David. I don't know whether, David, you want to say anything about Behind the Curtain, the Elgin and Winter Garden? Did anything more come of that, or are we just forgetting it for now?
No, well, I think we should probably do it. I'm working on the fall fundraiser right now, and I was hoping Ed was going to be on the call. Maybe he could take lead on this, just because he's been doing the other Behind the Curtains. So,
all right. So you know what? Let's
do it.
Let's shelve that till the end and just see if he comes online.
Okay.
Yeah, he hasn't answered me yet. Okay. Okay, so the big screen event, has been postponed indefinitely. I mean, we just decided it's not the time for that kind of thing. There are too many free events of that type being offered around the city in various places. And we never really heard back from John Polanyi, who we wanted to get involved to help us round up some participants for the audience. So we've dropped that. The Tree of Remembrance, nothing really to say at the moment, except it will be running this year again at the Young Eglinton Centre from December the 14th to the 24th. Oh, here we are. Yeah, he says he will join. So hopefully, if you watch out for him.
Okay, I'll watch for him. Yeah.
He should be any minute now.
Yeah, just a little bit on that. So I have confirmed with Young Eglinton Centre that we have a spot this year. I did request the top of the escalator. She said she would let me know closer to the event. It sounds like they're trying to drive a lot more traffic into the mall this year. So she has the dates. She's got us confirmed. Just we don't have a final location yet, but I'm hoping we'll have the same spot as we did last year and the year before.
Okay, and the other thing, just as a reminder, was that we said we would get maybe Walter Wells to give a training session on how to get people to support us and donate, because there's no doubt about it. He's a past master at that.
Yeah. And the only thing is that we are shorter this year than we were last year. We were 2 weeks last year. Now we're only 10 days. So.
Right. Okay, so that's that. I'll talk to Walter a bit nearer the time. Woodbine Racetrack, you heard a little bit about that. I mean, we've got 20 people signed up. It's still 20, David.
Yeah.
And there's more spots available. So if anybody you know of hasn't signed up for it, or if you've got any friends or what have you who might like to join us, please speak to them and let's see if we can at least get another 10 spots filled to give us the 30 that we.
Is there anyone from the committee going to be at the meeting? I'm not going to be at the meeting next week. I'm going to be up north. But is there anyone going to be at the meeting? Because I got 4 people to sign up at that meeting just by taking their money.
I mean, I'll be at the meeting next week for sure.
So if someone can just take their money and then let me know who's joined, I can add it to the list. We just need to know if they just need to pay $10 cash to get the spot reserved.
Yeah.
And Stephen, if you're going to do this, then I will send you you have the current list, unless it gets updated. Do you have the current list of people who are attending?
Yeah, just 2 quick things. Stephen keeps saying till 3:30. You can stay to 5:30 if you want. It's just a simple case of you can leave as soon as you pay your bills. So if you want to stay to the end, fine. If you want to go after the 4th or 5th race, that's fine. The other thing is that I'm about 95% sure you can send that out. Don't buy a program, they come free if you book a table.
Sorry, say that again.
The program from which you're betting, it's about $2 or $3. If you get a table, it comes free. So when you buy a program.
Haven't we got tables?
Yeah, that's
We
what I'm
do.
saying.
Yeah.
The program comes free if you have a table.
Okay, good.
We just gotta let people know that they shouldn't be buying programs when they arrive.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Stephen Stein, can you move more into the center of your computer, please? We can't hear you when you're talking off to the side.
Yeah, but I get more sleep that way.
There, that's perfect. Stay there. Stay centered, please. Here we go.
Oh, I didn't know you had a center.
Also, oh, sorry, one more thing. Put a deadline on Tuesday or Wednesday of the week we're going, because I'll have to phone in with numbers.
Okay.
Hi, Ed.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Ed.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
Great.
Good. Yeah. We're just getting started. We finished our regular meeting a bit early, so.
Yeah, gotcha. I had this down as 1:15, so that was kind of my plan to join then. So anyway, here we are.
Ed, is there anything, we Skylight skipped over behind the curtain as you weren't on the scene. So is there anything you want to say about that at all?
No, there's not really, because the next one is David's really kind of running with it as far as the initial parts. And as he and I have had a sidebar, I'm more than interested in helping out, as we get closer to the date or once things are finalized. But the other one we had talked about in the new year, trying to space things out, going to the con, Aga Khan Museum. Again, that's on hold just for the fact I kind of want to get things lined up here with everything else.
So Ed, I had made comment at the beginning with me working on the fall fundraiser, and I think you and Stephen both know that I've made a purchase. It's taking up a lot of my time. That I was wondering if you want to kind of spearhead that. I've only had one initial conversation with her, with Alan Flowers. I didn't know if you wanted to jump on that Algona Winter Garden thing.
Yeah, I'll
I can
take
send
that,
you all,
right?
I can send all the information to you so you can jump on this and just see, time wise and what they have available. Because they said all they need was 2 weeks notice, but I don't know when they're running the tours. But I think sometime in late September probably is the right time to do this.
Yeah, flip me the information. I'll put a summary together, circle it back to everybody on the call, an email. Just kind of lay out kind of a framework for it. And we'll just kind of get that called that leaping off point to move forward.
Okay. So I'll get all that stuff. I'll get the information to you this afternoon.
That's great. Thanks, David.
Okay.
I think it's a great event.
Okay. So unless there's anything else at this stage, I think we've covered everything. We're now onto the full fundraiser. I sent out stuff to everybody. David, I don't know if you want to kick this off.
Yeah, let me kind of bring everybody up to speed on where we're at in regards to this whole thing. So Don put me in touch with the rental company, and so I had formal conversations with them. I do have an updated invoice for the materials, and they're looking for a deposit. I sent to Stephen a financials on this, but has now been updated because since we sat down, since that was sent to Stephen, we did get a formal quote from Linda at the Toronto Lawn and Tennis Club for the food and beverages and service and all that stuff. So it has been updated. So I'd like to walk everyone through everything, including sponsorships, because I think the financials really give you an idea of where we're trying to take this and what we think we can make on this. As an overview, the event is on the Thursday. Friday was not available to us because it's Halloween weekend, and Linda thought they would be having a Halloween party or something on the Friday, but she also felt if we're going to try and get more Toronto Lawn attendees, that Thursday would be better. She says most Toronto Lawn members don't typically come out on Fridays. They do other things on the weekends. So she thought it'd be a great opportunity to get better attendance from them. So in the past, our revenue stream from this event has come from sponsorships, ticket sales, silent auction, and live auction. That's typically where we found the most revenue coming in. So I went ahead and after Steve and I met with Linda last week, I came up with some ideas on how we might be able to get some sponsorship based on it being a Monte Carlo evening. And we're not going to have sit down tables per se, like assigned tables, like a wedding. We are going to have seats and relaxing chairs and such. We're all going to have high tops. So we can't really offer people a table as a sponsorship. So what I thought we might be able to do is do some sponsorship of the gaming tables, doing sponsorships of the chips, the poker chips. So I listed everything here. So I said, overall, we could potentially get an event sponsor for $5,000. We've had difficulty in the last two events that I've been a part of to find an event sponsor. One did come in for the gem event, but that was because gem was they brought in the sponsor. It was one of the husbands of our committee members, and so they came in for $5,000. But we originally had $10,000, but there's no way we could generate $10,000 from that. But having said that, I was looking for an event sponsor for $5,000, and then the gaming tables. We're going to have 6 tables. So I think we're going to have 3 poker tables, 1 roulette table, 1 Texas Hold'em table, 3 blackjack tables, 1 poker table, 1 roulette table, 1 crown and anchor table. And then we're going to have so there's 6 tables in total. I thought we'd do sponsorships of $1,000 a piece. So that's a $6,000 total. We also are going to have a dessert table. So we're going to have past food, hot food, as well as a dessert table. Because the event is 7 to 11:30, we're not going to have a formal dinner per se. It's going to be hot food, and then dessert, coffee, and tea. And so I thought we could potentially have a dessert table sponsor for $2,500, and then a chip sponsor for $500, a bar sponsor for $2,000, and then we have to talk about the magician. But there is an opportunity to have a magician that the rental company has offered to us for $625 that roams around the event venue and does magic tricks, close hand magic. And we could potentially have a sponsor for the magician. So that takes us to a total of $17,000 in sponsorships if we can fill those all up.
Let me just interrupt you there and say that I personally am proposing to sponsor to the tune of $1,000. And as I did last time or 2 years ago, and previously, particularly for the GEM event that we had, I think 4 years ago, I'm going to ask members of the club if they would be prepared to join me in sponsoring either at the 1,000 or the 500 level.
Yeah, I mean, we can take
The
what,
equivalent of $17,000 that way.
yeah, I mean, whatever we can get. I just put round numbers out to see how we can get to that 17,000. If we can raise more, great. If we can raise whatever we can, that's a major portion of what we're gonna make from a fundraising perspective. Last year and the year before, we also did get donations from people. Like last year, Barb couldn't attend, Barb Bocking. And so she gave us a check for, I think, $250 or $300, $400. And when before she left the club, she said, I'd rather give a fundraising donation to you guys rather than spending my annual fees where I know I'm just on Zoom. I'd rather know that my money's going to a better place to help the community in such a large. So there are probably people that may not be able to attend who just want to give a donation to the event, may not want to do a sponsorship. So I put $2,500 in that. So there is a total of sponsorships and donations, hopefully forecasted for just under 19,500.
20,000. One thing I would remind people about as well is that in previous occasions, 2 years ago and 2 years before that, we were doing it in conjunction with another organization. So we only got 50% of the funds that were raised. This time we're getting 100%, which we will be able to, which our committees will be able to spread around as they see fit. But I think that's an important thing to remind people of when approaching people or asking people to consider making a sponsorship, is that 100% of the money goes to RTE this time.
This is a significant area for international too. They get the bulk of the
Yes.
money from this
Yes.
fund, this fundraising. So they really need the money this year. They don't get bingo money.
Yeah.
International, so it's important for them.
So, hey, David, just to backtrack a little bit on the one-off donations, $100, $200, whatever the number is. Is there any way we could have something like a Friends of Rotary wall? And
we can do whatever we want.
So what I'm thinking, right, is if somebody like Barb or whomever wants to donate, say $150, whatever the number, 100, 250, just like they do in hospitals. I have a Friends of Rotary, it's temporary, but guess what? It's affordable. It's not 500. It's not 750. It's not 1,000. And you know, thanks for being generous, Stephen. But there might be lots of people who just say, you know what? Hey, $100, $150. All of a sudden, you got a wall with 30 names on it. There's 3,500 there, and it's a little more informal, a little more grassroots, community oriented as far as.
You know, we can do a board that we can put up on an easel that, you know, Friends of Rotary for this evening's event. And we can list all these people's names. That we've done stuff like that in the past. What we've done in the past, because we've had a audio visual component to this, and we could probably do an audio visual component if we wanted to. I just think it'll take up a lot of space, but we could have a roaming slideshow with Friends of Rotary names and sponsorships and things of that sort. We can do that. That's a very easy thing to do. But I think if we want to do a formal board, like something on a cardstock board that be on an easel, I'm fine with that too.
Okay.
Yeah. We should have a recognition board, no question. And maybe two boards, whatever. If we can put all of our major sponsors on as well as the donators too.
Sure.
And then my hope is that we'd have table cards as well for the people that are sponsoring the actual tables, the gaming tables.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Tickets.
But
So-
just one other, just on the fundraising itself, are you doing a silent auction or something like that as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I haven't got there yet. So
Okay.
I'm just going down my list.
Okay.
I'm going down through the financials.
Oh, I was looking at money and.
I sent it, incidentally, I did send everybody a copy of the financials.
They're just not current on expenses. They're current on
Yeah.
revenue. But
Which
there's not current on
needs to be
expenses.
updated, and they also got a copy of the floor plan of the Philpott room.
Yeah.
And some information on costs from the Lawn Tennis Club.
Yeah, I was going to go through all that. So, okay, so ticket sales. So we need to come up with a number. Right now, I have put down, because Stephen's point of supporting Rotary and not supporting another fundraising or another charity, that I think we've done in the past $125 or 150. I can't exactly remember. I think it was 125 the last time because it was online. But I put the number in as 150. So feedback from the group on that. Would love to hear what you guys think. Is that too expensive? And what that would include is, let me walk you through the evening. Here's what my thought process on the evening is. So if someone buys a ticket to the event, they will get a set of raffle tickets, and we can decide on the size of the raffle tickets. So let's say I'm not a gambler, but I want to come for the evening to support it. I would get, when I check in, I would get a roll of tickets, let's say, and we have to come up with the number. I had 5 raffle tickets. We can do 20 raffle tickets. We just have to decide on what we want to do. And what would happen is those raffle tickets, I'm not saying they're currency because I don't want to say that because it impacts what I'm going to say later down in the presentation, but it is, people can give those back and put them in the raffle drum and call it a day. What people can do if they want to is they can go out and use those raffle tickets to get some chips to take to the gaming tables. And each one of those tickets is worth so many chips. And we can, again, come up with that decision on what that would be. They would then go and take those chips and try and make more chips from gambling. Once they're done gambling, they would go back to the chip table, hand in their chips, and we would give them the equivalent in raffle tickets that then would go back into the raffle bin. So there's really no money changing hands for the gambling portion. What is changing hands is if people use up all their chips and they want to buy more chips, they could buy more raffle tickets, not more chips. And then they can use those raffle tickets towards getting more chips if they want to exchange them out. So I think there's some value to giving raffle tickets, as well as we didn't think about including any beverages. We thought this would be a cash bar. And the reason we thought we'd do a cash bar was that if we have a lot of Toronto Lawn members coming to the event, they may use their chits to go and purchase drinks on their accounts because they may want to use up their accounts or whatever. And that's kind of what Linda said to us. She said, if you did want to do a ticket bar or tickets, so people give you money for tickets to go and get a drink, you may run into issues where people are going to want to sign off on their chits. And I said, this sounds like it could be very complicated. So let's just make it a cash bar and leave it at that. So the tickets would not include any drink tickets. Drinks are above and beyond the cost of the entrance ticket. So what they would get for this entrance fee or registration fee would be a certain number of raffle tickets, the past foods, the supporting of the charity, and then basically desserts and coffee and tea. And as in past years, everything is going into the foundation for this particular event, because what will happen is we will figure out what the cost of the event is. And let's say it's $75 and they paid $150. They would get a tax receipt for the $75 difference. Does everyone understand that? So if they don't get coverage on the whole 150 or 125, whatever we come up with, they only get what is above and beyond the cost of the event itself. And that's what we've done in every year past that we've done this. So, but we won't know until the night of what our final costs are. And therefore then it could be $65 in a donation, or it could be $85 in a donation. We just don't know that yet until we've run all the numbers.
Could you just say 50%?
We've never done that because it's never always 50%, because our cost could be higher than 50%.
Okay.
So it's always worked out fine that we give the number back to we've done it to Lois in the previous years, but to them and to the foundation, say, okay, here's what the number is, and they just write the tax receipts for that amount. Done.
Okay.
I mean, if you take the draft, that this first draft of expenses and income, which of course is only a very first draft, as David has said, the expenses were about $12,000 and the net profit was $35,000. So actually it would be about 65%. But this is a very first draft, a very rough draft. So I don't think we need to be
I now
specific
have
at this stage.
I now have a final run through with all the costs associated based on what we have so far between the rentals and the Toronto Lawn quote. But I just, the variable that we can control is the price of the ticket. So I think we need to make a decision on, I can tell you at this price, at $150, the club will net at the end, after all the taxes included, I put all taxes in and everything, the net profit on this event, unless we don't have the magician, then it'll be higher, but I have $36,835.47.
And how many people's that?
That's 125 people.
Okay.
So fewer people, we could fit, she quoted us on 125 people for the event, but we could fit more people in the room if we had to. But just remember, proportionally, the cost would go up because you would charge us more per person, and it would be, but we'd have more revenue in the top end.
Right. So what do people think about the 150?
That sounds reasonable. It's 125. The last one's 125. There's no reason this one. What
And that was online. Yeah.
was online?
Yeah, I think the fact
Yeah,
that this is something that
So
for the
here we
club
have to rent the
itself,
room.
right? It's not going to any other charity, it's going to all of ours. So I assume that we're going to get a lot of probably bigger supporters from the club on this, because it is going into our own pockets and not going half to our pockets.
Right.
One other thing,
Yeah,
one other thing to consider, and that is, in the past, we've given a number of entry tickets with a sponsorship. I mean, do we want to consider doing the same again? In other words, maybe four tickets for $1,000 and 2 tickets for $500, something like that, or less, or not at all.
I'm for not at all on that, Stephen. And in line with my thinking on the 150, I don't think it should be anything less. Like this is a fundraiser, and people got to know that we're raising funds, which means just make a donation, give us your money. And as I was with one of our previous, I guess the HIP event, where I was, and I still feel the same way about that, we get out of the retail model where we're trying to justify every expense like they're getting a good deal. Like let's not even go down that path of thinking. Let's go give us 500, give us $1,000, or give us 500, or give us 150, and come and have some fun. But it's a fundraiser, and it's not meant to be a transaction where you're going to get a good deal on anything. I think that kind of thinking really limits us, and so I'm all for 150 or more, but definitely not less. And same thing with including tickets along the same lines. We're going to just basically the sponsorship just ends up being buying the tickets. So I think they should be separate if we're going to really raise any money. And we put in a lot of time and effort for really not much funds.
Okay.
And so that's my thoughts.
Anybody disagree with that?
No, since we're not selling a table per se, that kind of a thing, you're already giving them a bit of a deal with the, what did you call them? Coupons, it's the ticket, the
Raffle tickets.
the raffle ticket. Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I would do at a minimum is if they bought $1,000 donation towards a table, that I'd give them 2 tickets. I wouldn't go anything less than that.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't, if they did 500, it's 500. They don't get anything for that. It's a 500 donation. But if they give 200, they give 1,000, I may give them 2 tickets, just because it could be a spouse and a member or someone. I think that might be the number, but I'm open to not giving them anything for the donation. Just call it a
They
day.
get tax receipts anyhow, don't they?
What's that?
They get tax receipts? The full amount?
Yeah, they're getting tax receipts. Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Because they aren't getting anything for it. If you give them
Yeah, they're
tickets,
getting recognition, but yeah,
if you give them 2 tickets, they get a $700 tax receipt, and then they'll get a tax receipt for the portion of the ticket which we deem tax receivable, which may be half or whatever.
right.
So that's all we have to decide, whether we want to give people 2 tickets $1,000 and anything less than $1,000 gets nothing, or whether we say no tickets, period, no free tickets. Period.
Tax receipts. Yeah.
So what do we so Ron is saying we should keep the 2 separate, no tickets with the sponsorship or donations. We agree with that, or do we want to have 2 tickets for $1,000?
I agree with Ron. I think 0 tickets for $1,000, because that way they have to buy the tickets as well. It's extra money for us, and they're getting a tax receipt.
Yeah, it's a fundraiser. It's not a show.
Ed, do you have a view?
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking both sides of that one because, at the end of the day, if someone's going to pony up $1,000, they may not be coming anyway, right? So, they may just be looking for the tax receipt. So in that respect, I'm in favor of not giving the tickets.
Well, what about a major sponsor, like 2,500 for the dessert table, 2,000 for the bar? What about those? That's pretty major, $2,000,
Yeah.
25.
I think 2,000. Yeah, that'll limit the
Well,
number.
and maybe what I would also suggest is for anything above whatever the number, it's $2,500 or $5,000 sponsorship. You give them 2 tickets because you thank them personally in front of everyone there. You take an intermission, you thank everybody for attending, you thank the gold and platinum sponsors. Here they are. And then with that in mind, they get the recognition, which is nice, right?
That's right. Let's call them that, gold and platinum sponsors. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. The tiers there.
Yeah.
And so then you do give the tickets to the bigger sponsors. You thank them personally up front, as an MC, whoever
So
the
all right. So can I suggest if we do find an event sponsor at $5,000, they get 4 tickets, and if we find a sponsor at $2,000 for the bar, they get 2 tickets.
Sure.
And then if it's less than that, gets nothing.
That works.
Okay. Yeah, and the 2,500 dessert tables, 2 tickets too.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing too, right, is when it comes to the bar bill with the food and everything, like people that are sponsoring at 5,000, maybe they're just going to come in and have a drink or whatever, which we have to have somebody will pay for, whether it's them or someone else. But I see that as overflow tickets. I don't see that as 125 targeted attendees. So, maybe we just say to the lawn and or to the lawn is that we're going to have maybe a handful of other people that just come in at the last minute. It's just maybe just a little bit of positioning there because, again, I don't want to get
I hope we have that problem. I hope we have that problem where we can sell out 125 tickets and get above and beyond that. And then we can let Linda know that shortly beforehand. It's not as though she has to make major changes a week or 2 weeks in advance. So, I mean, Linda knows how we operate. And so she's more than happy. Like if we can get 130, 140 people there, I would be very happy with that. But I'm not sure we will. We'll have to wait and see. I think the wild card is going to be the Toronto Lawn members, right? There could be a lot of them that want to come to this thing. And if Tom does his way, Tom's a really good salesman on that stuff, and he can get people to come to these type of things. So we may very well likely, but remember, we have 50 members of our own, but how many of those members actually come out to the events? So, if we get 30 of our members, I'd be really happy, but I hopefully get more.
Yeah. And just to interject, if there's any of the children's charities we support where there's some kind of a tennis connection, if we can somehow weave that into the event, and even if that's donating part of the proceeds, just to use an old cliche, that might be like catnip to some of the members, right, at the club. If you can just weave in tennis thread.
So
as we get closer to the event,
we should highlight the charities that we sponsor for sure.
Right. As we get closer and we can speak to the committees, we can say, hey guys, this is what we think we might generate. Who do you think you might support from that? That we can then say, this is where the money's going to go. It's always easier for the donations and the sponsorships to have that conversation than it is to sell a ticket. But for those larger donations and sponsorships, you kind of say, here's kind of where we think the money's going to end up going after costs.
Yeah.
And so again, we can reach out to them.
I'm thinking of somehow trying to tie in tennis to bring the local tennis club members up to it.
I mean, in the past, we supported the Phil Popper organization, haven't we?
Yeah, and that would be up to Lionel to say he's going to do that, right? That's all. I just don't want to make the assumption that we can just put that in there and it doesn't. I mean, unless we don't lie. So if Lionel says he's going to give some money to the Philpott organization, it could be $500. We're not lying. We are giving some of the funds to the Philpott organization. right?
Yeah, would they qualify for bingo money, you think? Philpott?
I don't know.
No, don't know. We'll have to
Don't know if
check.
they're
that.
on the list or not.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so from my sense, Stephen, I think it sounds like
So
everyone's fine with
we're
that.
okay with 150. We're okay with 150.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're all okay with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the next source of revenue is the live auction and silent auction. So live auction's a tough one. I've got $2,000 down. We made a lot more money from that in the previous years, but auctions have become quite more difficult to find stuff to be donated, to be sold off. So I lowered that amount to only like $6,000. And I think we made 15 or 20. And there's the difference between the 50,000 that we made in profit to the 36,000. That is the difference. That's where we made up a lot of that extra money that I don't want to put in the budget, knowing that we may not get that, because the events I've been to in the recent past, people have said it's so difficult to find people to donate stuff that they've gone to corporations who do this, and all they sell is those sports memorabilia and pieces of that stuff that's signed, and it really doesn't sell because there's no personal attachment to it. I mean, I know we have the full season of our hockey tickets now, and I'm sure that John probably still has his basketball tickets. I'm sure I can. You don't? You got rid of them.
But
I could probably.
but I think I can still get those 2 tickets
I can get some tickets, but I got rid of
for
them.
basketball.
But I think I can ask my wife if we can give up 2 sets of tickets to hockey games, so we could probably do that. So I think there may be some value of in-person. I just don't know if we have anything that we can get our hands on from a live auction perspective, because in the past, for all those members that have attended in the past, we've had members who have given us weeks at a cottage, or weeks at a place in Brazil, or a week in Colorado. There have been some major ticketed items. And so it's really being sourced from members and friends of members, because we don't have that partner. That's one of the things that we've always leaned on, the partner for bringing some of those larger items to the auction block. But again, I've only got $2,000 down for live auction. We may not have any events. It may all go to silent auction. We call it a day. But that's where our variable in pieces. And
I'd like to make a suggestion, and that is that, Dawn, when you're putting together your note to send out about the meeting, maybe you could also mention the fact that we're starting to look for auction items for the event on October the 26th. And would people start to think about, what they can solicit?
Okay.
Have you?
like, I don't want a lot of art. Art doesn't really do anything.
No, it doesn't.
I
mean, Laura's very good at getting stuff from spas or hotels and what have you, for instance.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff, the experiential stuff that I think is what's going to work. So hockey tickets, gift certificates, hotel stays, things of that sort.
Yeah. And then if anybody comes up with something of significance or something sizable, then we could sort of say, well, maybe we'll make that a live auction item.
Like a car.
A car, yeah, good idea. Do you know anybody who'll give us a car?
Yeah. Gotcha.
I think what we need to do, I mean, if we want to get something of that sort, then we really need to decide before we approach those kinds of people what charities we're going to be giving the money to, so that we can say, look, this is where the money's going. Would you let us lease a car for 2 years or something?
Yeah. No, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, us getting that, I mean, that's wishful thinking. Yeah. But I do agree with you, Stephen, that we should really be narrowing down. So over the next couple of meetings, Donna, I know you're attending all of those, but you might want to put it out there too. And we should probably talk about this. We can talk about this at the board meeting next Tuesday as well, that we're going to be leaning on the committee chairs to give us ideas on where they think, if they got money, where it would go this year, so that we can use that to help sell the sponsorships as well as the auction items, so people know where the money will go.
Right.
Okay, the last piece of revenue is the raffle tickets. And so I put $2,500 in on that. And that's basically for additional raffle tickets that people may want to purchase above and beyond what they get with their ticket. And, you know, we just have to put a value on those and say, this is what they're worth. And I round a number up. For $20, you can get 5 tickets, so they're $5 a piece, right? And
Like,
so then
somehow you got to think we can't dilute the other tickets that are come with part of the ticket, like the ticket of entry and the gambling, right?
yeah,
So you know what, if you had $100, you got your meals. I'm just throwing 100 out because it's easy. $50 meal, 5 tickets, $10 a ticket. You got to sell them for the same amount or a
Right.
slight discount to the entry. You know,
so we just
price.
have to put a value on. We don't need to decide that today, but we
No.
need to put a value on those raffle tickets so that they have an
Yes.
equivalency in chips.
Yes.
Mhm.
So we just
And
need
an
to decide that.
equivalency for, is it, if it's a poker table, is it a $5 table or $25 table or?
Well,
you
I
know?
think we just put a value on the chip and say, here's what a chip is worth.
Yeah.
And it is, right? And that's across the board. It's the same across the board.
Now,
How many are you gonna use up on a game?
What I'm trying to stay away from is to put a dollar value to the chip.
yeah.
Because when we talked to Linda said, if you're not putting money on the table, she does not believe that we need to get a gaming license. But when I talked to the rental company, she said that if we have any money changing hands for chips, technically we should have a gaming license.
Well, why don't you want to get a gaming license?
Don, I've been working on this and I stopped working on it when we had a conversation with Lynn last week. It is an absolute pain in the ass trying to work with the government. And
That's their job, to me, a pain in the ass.
Of course. And I reached out to them and asked some questions because I didn't understand what the process was and what we needed. So we need to get a proper license as a foundation, because it will come from the foundation because we're a charitable organization. Once we get a proper gaming license that's good for, I guess, a year, then we have to go out and get a special gaming or charity event permit. So it's a gaming permit for that one event. So we have to get 2 different things. We can't apply for the second without getting a license number because it's required in the application for the second event permit.
Right.
And I asked them, how does this process work? And I got back, well, you need to do this and this. And I said, well, I know I need to do this and this. I just need to understand better on the process on getting online and doing all this. I've been on the line, I've printed stuff up, I've started the process. I was hoping we wouldn't have to do it, but my sense is that we probably will do it because just to cover our asses.
I would rather see us cover our ass. And when I told you before, when I forwarded to Lois everything they asked us for, she said we can get them all that information, not a problem.
Yeah. I just think it's a process that needs a little bit more work. And I don't know how you went in to do it. Did you go into the AGCO?
Yes, and there was a form there that said, here's what you need. And so I copied it, I sent it to her and she looked at it. She said, yeah, we can do all of this through the foundation. Yeah.
Okay, so I will reach out to the foundation, I'll probably have to go to Bill Martin and to Jackie and get some information.
I'd go to Lois first if I were you.
Well, Lois is not on the foundation. I'm not going to start that.
Okay, because Jackie probably doesn't know.
Well, that's why Bill would know.
Maybe.
Bill did all the incorporation documents. He has all the documents on the foundation.
Okay.
So he would be the one to reach out and say, here's what I need between the 2 of you, or can you direct me to who I should go to? But at least I've started down that path. Okay.
Sorry, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
If you run into trouble with the licenses, only if you're in trouble, go to your local MPP because they employ people to straighten that stuff on your behalf.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it works.
Yeah, no, I truly believe that. So I'll start on this process and figure out how to, because this is going to be the pain in the ass, this piece.
You never know who's coming that might be an official of some description that.
Yeah, there could be a government official who's
Shuts us
specifically
down.
the
If you have
Toronto
a
lawn.
license, yeah, shuts us
The Toronto lawn.
down.
I think we also could run into a problem with the people that we're renting from if we don't, because we have licensed dealers And I think
Mhm.
they may turn around and say to us, yeah, we're not gonna stick around because we don't want to lose our business
Exactly.
license. Or,
We could make them vulnerable too, yeah.
yeah. But look, I said to Linda, I said, you don't have, she goes, no, I don't have a problem. If you don't have a license, I don't have a problem. I said, okay, at least you're covering your ass, and I don't have to worry about you. But having said that, anyway, so I will start down that process. Any questions on revenue streams? So I think we've kind of ironed some of those things out.
Just one comment to think about. The house, the 5 gaming tables will need to have a float of some type. Meaning there'll
Sure.
have to be some chips or tickets in reserve, right?
Yeah.
Simple example would be you sell 5 tickets, 5 people go up, all 5 people gamble at once, the same table, they all win. What do they take away, right?
Yep.
So somehow we'll have to figure that out.
We just have to have chips. That's all. The chips are currency. Because if they're not getting money back for that, as long as we have money aside.
Understood.
Just means they get
But
more.
you'll have to somehow have enough chips in reserve as a float.
Yeah. So what she's proposed to us, Ed, in regards to chip counts,
yeah,
cases of 200. She's asking for us to have 16 cases.
Wow.
Okay.
So that's 3,200.
Yeah, 3,200. Yeah.
So 3,200, and they're $10 a case. So if we feel we need more than 3,200 chips, my thought is if the house is winning, we just take from the house, from the tables, and bring it back to the cashier table, and that's our supply, right? We just keep working the supply.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
on your draft financials, you said 2 packets at $10. Is that what we're talking about now? Or are we talking?
Well, I've changed that now because she's changed the quote to 10 packs based on the number I gave her of people coming.
So how many packs is it?
It's 16. That's why I've got an updated version. I'm reading off my updated version. So
it's $160.
Yeah, it's 160. I'll send you a new one, Stephen. I just worked on this morning.
Right. So are we saying then that we are going to explore the business of getting a permit?
Yes, we are.
So who's going to do that? You or you and Lois?
I'm doing it. I'm going to spearhead it. I'm going to champion it. This is why I want you to do the other event.
Okay, and then what about licensed dealers? Do we still think we need licensed dealers?
That's where this all came up. I said, if we're not going to be doing any money exchanging hands, do we still need the licensed dealers? Because I want to update the cost of business. And she basically said, if you are having any money exchanging hands at this event, you should have a license, and you will need licensed dealers. And so I left it at that. So my thought process on this is that's what triggered me to go back and say, do we need to get the event license? And from what I'm getting from today is it's a yes. And so I'd rather have it and not worry about her coming into the space and saying, you guys don't have a license, we can't stay, we've got to leave. And then we have no gaming tables, right? So it's just one more thing.
So that's one.
And along with that, though, I would suggest a licensed dealer. They look great. They know what they're doing. But
they're expensive.
More professional.
They're $285 for the evening, and so that's $1,700 for 6 dealers. So it's an expense. That's why I thought if we can get rid of that expense, it's $1,000 in our pocket. But having said all that, I've left it in. And other than some of the other stuff, the operational aspect between the rentals and the Toronto lawn, we've got all that nailed down. That's pretty much done. It's really it's now about getting the promotional piece, getting the flyer. Like I haven't started any flyer. I didn't know if anyone wanted to jump on the flyer. I was thinking about going out to Sarah on Thursday's meeting or tomorrow's meeting, Dawn, and saying, hey, can you guys create a flyer for us if I give you all the information? Like, unless someone here wants to jump on trying to build a flyer or something to promote the event.
Well, I think she should be the one who does it, number one. And number two, we want to get it done as soon as possible because, so that we can post it at the lawn tennis club as well.
Well, we can't post anything, right? It all has to be done by hand.
Well, that down to Tom to get
right. Yeah. No, you're right. We need to get this started. That's the big piece. But
Another question is, maybe I should, or we should co-opt Tom onto this committee for the time being.
yeah, we should bring him in as a friend to the committee.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd want to be a part of this just to keep apprised of how we're moving forward, so he can give that from the horse's mouth rather than us relaying the information to him afterwards.
He probably can get some sponsors, you know.
Oh, yeah,
Last
I'm
week
hoping
we
he
brought
can.
that fella who owns Porter Airlines he's trying to get him to be a member, so.
Hey, like if we
Maybe.
can get 2 Porter Airline tickets, like,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
so yes, I think that, so in regards to, I'm not going to go through all the expenses because everyone's kind of, I've been talking a lot about this, but all the cost of the rentals are here, the licensing on the licensed dealers. My big question for everybody, do we want to have the roaming magician? It's $625.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
rental companies recommended it, but
Yeah, they told me
Yes.
that too. They'd say one less table and have the magician for sure.
David also, I think it's a great idea. I will sponsor the magician.
I was
Okay.
gonna say the exact same thing, Ron. I'll sponsor the magician.
Okay, well, go ahead, Don, if you want to.
Or committee does it.
okay, so
I
we're
don't know,
gonna
one
keep,
of us,
I'm gonna keep the
Don or I
magician
will
in the
figure it out.
mix.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll let Helen know that we're gonna keep the magician on that end. And then basically there's just the regular fees for HST and then everything else. So Stephen, you didn't send over the quote for the Toronto lawn, right? So people don't get to see the food.
I sent what I did send was the first 2 pages. I wasn't going to send all 12.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
first 2 pages, which talked about, whatever.
So what basically Linda recommended to us, she has a whole bunch of favorites that people seem to like that they're past foods. So she's got some cold hors d'oeuvres like smoked salmon canapes. She's got bruschetta pomodoro on olive and oil baked crostini with fresh basil and balsamic glaze. She's got smashed avocado on olive oil baked crostini with roasted portobello mushrooms. She's got crisp frites with roasted garlic and parmesan aioli. So it's probably French fries. Lean ground beef mini barbecue burgers with cheese. She's got vegetarian spring rolls with plum sauce. She's got chicken satays with sweet chili sauce. So your typical.
That's good
Sounds
stuff.
good.
Okay.
It's
and then
not
she's got-
funeral sandwiches.
No, not
The only
funeral
thing is,
sandwiches.
she doesn't say on this particular form. I don't see anywhere how many she's based it on.
She's based this on 125 people.
Okay.
So she's done 8 dozen of everything. And then she's got a sweet table with sliced fresh fruit, assortment of cakes, squares, verrine and petit fleurs, coffee and tea.
Now, let me just come back to what you said at the beginning about the timing. We're saying we're going to start at what time?
She put this down from 7 to 11:30 p.m. is what she put
We're
it
not
down.
going to go till 11:30. I mean, if we go to 10:30, that'll be as far as we'll go. I would
10:30. Yeah, my thought would be 7 to 11, but that would
I
be
thought
my.
7 to 11 was main events time frame. I thought that was.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think is probably 7 to 11. If we finish up earlier, we finish up earlier. But I would say 7 to 11.
And main event brings everything in. We don't have to worry about.
No, they do it all.
Yeah.
And are you having welcoming, like a welcome kind of comment at 7:30? Have you kind of laid that out at all?
Yeah, we have not even gotten to that piece yet. This is all about the logistics of it all and just the preliminaries. But yes, we will work towards that as we get, by sometime in September. Right now, it's really about getting the license. Like my key is to get the license done and submit and all that stuff by the end of August, have it like in motion. I don't know how long this takes to get, but I want to make sure by the end of September, we have a license in hand.
Sure.
Right.
The reason I ask is anybody that's working, 7 o'clock starts, actually kind of hard to hit. A lot of people work till 6:30. And so if you're having some kind of a welcoming comments, you want to keep that in mind, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be at the start of the event. It would be closer to 7:30, 7:45.
7:30 sort of thing, right?
Yeah. I think once everyone arrives, I think you're going to get arrivals between 7 and 7:30. I would say the welcome should start at 7:45, or maybe even 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Another suggestion I've got is that maybe we can find a sponsor for the dealers. That's $1,700. We could offer that. So we've got a $5,000 event sponsor. We've got a $2,500 dessert.
Yeah, just note that the 3 blackjack tables are only $175 a piece and we're asking for $1,000. So that could be my assumption would be that would be the dealer in the table. I mean, if we have to come up with more ways of people giving more money, if we get more sponsorships, then we can name it. We can dealers, the serving staff, whatever we need to name. If they want to be brought forth by, this is brought to you by, so and so. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
I feel we're gonna have just a difficult time filling all these current donations, right? So what we've also asked for her to do is we're also going to include soft drinks in the cost of the event. So soft drinks are $2 a piece. And so she's quoted us at 125. So everyone may take one soft drink, but as we know, some people may drink more than that. Some people drink less than that because they're going to drink only hard liquor. But those will be complimentary so if someone's coming and they're a designated driver or whatever, and they're not drinking alcoholic beverages, they have the ability to go up to the bar for a soft drink. So that's included in the price of this for food and beverage. So having said all that, the net on this, if I iron out all the dollars and cents prior to taxes, it works out to be about $40 per person for the food, labor, soft drinks, and does not include gratuities or that. So we're probably talking the 40 to 45 range per person on the cost of food and gratuities. So, okay.
That's reasonable, yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
On your original quote, it didn't have a gratuity line, did it?
Yeah, I didn't put it in. I didn't put HSTs and stuff in either. I put those in because that needs to be included because that comes off our bottom line. So having said all that, right now with the food and beverage costs, it's $10,000, and all the table rentals, all that stuff is $10,029. So just $10,000 in regards to expenses. And so our net profit on the overall event is $36,835. And again, Stephen can resend this out to you guys with the updated numbers, as I just did this morning. So, so that's kind of where we're at. The outstanding issues in regards to this are, as we talked about, promotional piece, and we will talk to Sarah tomorrow at that meeting, the public image meeting. If there's any type of social media we need to promote, things of that sort, we will talk to Sarah about that for the upcoming event. As I said, I'll deal with the license. The only outstanding issues, we need to write a check for the rentals. They're kind of a little bit all over the place, the people on vacation and such, so they haven't been pushing me for it. But I did ask.
Don't they? They want a deposit, don't they?
Lon does not want a deposit. I asked her if she
With
wanted
the
any money
rental
up front,
people.
but the rental company wants a deposit. And the rental company for the deal, they want a deposit of $2,200 basically of the 44. They want half.
Yeah.
So I will speak with Jackie on that because that's where all the money is going. So I'm trying to think of what else. So, and then basically, Stephen, you said you're going to spearhead the sponsorships and stuff. You're going to work on that.
Yep.
And you'll bring everybody in. So you're going to bring Tom in.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, so I will work with Don on the public image committee because I'm going to go to that meeting. Stephen, you're going to take on the sponsorships, and I will take on the licensing. Everything else seems to be done. Am I missing anything?
No, sounds great.
Okay.
Just got to get to work. Not a lot of time. Yeah.
Well,
And
all
Dawn,
the lifting is done. Other than the license and the sponsorships,
Yeah.
that's what's next. And
True,
selling
yeah.
tickets.
Yeah.
And so Dawn, you and Ron will decide who's going to do the magician.
No, I said I would do it. He said.
Oh, you will. Okay.
Okay, I will let Helen know that we're gonna keep the magician.
Yeah.
Are there any questions
guys.
on the layout, the floor plan? I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at it.
I'm sorry, I got to bow out. I got to head out here, so I've
Okay,
got
and
a
I will
call.
send you that information on the winter garden, okay?
Sounds perfect. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Yeah, I
Thanks, Ed.
gotta get running as well. See you guys.
Okay, for any of those people that want to look at the floor plan, we can make these changes later. We don't talk about this today,
Yeah.
Stephen.
Right.
Right.
I gotta go, guys.
So do I. All right,
That's fine.
next, before you go, I'm suggesting we have the next meeting on September the 6th after lunch at the club. In other words, in 3 weeks' time. And then I would go on to suggest that following that, we'll need to meet every 2 weeks.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, Stephen, I may not be, I don't know what my plan is. I'm going to be on the road. I'm heading to Massachusetts for a wedding on that weekend, and we're making a road trip of it. So I will not be at that meeting
Which meeting? Meeting on the, oh, okay.
on the 6th. My September and November are just brutal. I'm just between the high holidays and weddings and such. I'm traveling.
All right, but I
Not
still
going to see
think,
much of me in person.
I still think we should meet on the 6th.
Okay, I just won't be at that meeting, so I'll help you get
Well,
all my
if
information.
it
Friday.
is important, could we do it before that? If it's important that, David's there? We could do it before the 6th. That's what I'm saying.
Or we could do it on the, we
Well,
could
the
do it,
long weekend is the 4th. If you want to do it on the 5th, I can do
Well,
the night of the 5th. If you want to do the 5th, Stephen.
5th is
Or
a
do
Tuesday.
Zoom.
The 5th is a Tuesday.
Yeah, I said if you want to do that the evening of
Do
the
Zoom.
5th, and through Zoom, I can be on that for sure. But the
Well,
other stuff I won't be. I'll be in the.
I
I'll be
think
in a
it's
car.
important that David be there for the meeting rather than meeting
Okay.
in person. It's more important that David be there than meeting in person.
Okay, so 7 o'clock on the 5th.
Okay, September 5th. Day after Labor Day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay,
I will send you the updated financials. Okay.
yep.
Don, do you want them too? Well, I'll send them to him, then he can send you the meeting notes.
Yeah, send them to me and I'll send it with the minutes.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
everybody. Thank you very much. I think that was a very good and productive meeting. David,
Yes.
thank you very much for all your work on this so far and anything to do going forward. Much
Yeah.
appreciated.
Great. It's really
I'll get
coming.
on the license. That's what I'll start next.
I know. I think it's a cover your ass kind of thing, though.
I think so too. I just hope it doesn't take a lot of time to get it. That's my concern.
Yeah. Okay.
And hopefully Mike and Sarah can get together and put together a promo piece. That's really,
Yeah.
maybe that should really be Mike and Sarah, shouldn't it? Rather than you and Sarah.
Well, I'm on the committee. Mike is on the committee too, but she is the chair. So I will.
Yes, but
I'm on the committee, so I'll present
I
it.
can tell you right now, I'm not committing Sarah to a lot.
Yeah. It's my concern here too. I just can't. I just know I won't. It'll be really hectic to try and get this all done.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll work with it.
Very good.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right,
Don,
thank you.
Don, just so you know that we have bought a place in Naples.
Yeah.
And I'm going down at the end of September for probably 2 weeks to close the deal and all that. So I'm between that and all these events, it's like tight. And the high holidays.
That's good to hear because you're the only people that ever bought one down there.
Oh, really? No one else has bought in Naples?
Not recently, I don't know.
Yeah. So at least I hope. My wife has had the home inspection yesterday, and there's a little bit of a problem with the air conditioning, and so we're a little concerned about that. But we're hopefully going to get that fixed before we close.
Who did you use as a buying agent?
A Sotheby's guy.
Well, you didn't use that Virginia, what's her name that I suggested to you before?
No, so you didn't have the story. Sorry, because you guys don't need to stay on for this conversation. We went to her. We weren't in her price range. She deals much higher. Like she's doing $1 million, $2 million condos. And we said, we're not spending that kind of money.
Okay.
And she said, well, I don't know that market well enough, so I'm going to refer you. So she
Oh,
refers to another guy, another Sotheby's agency, and so we dealt with him.
That's fine. I no skin off my nose one way or the other, but I just wondered whether you'd used her, that's all.
No, we didn't. We never ended up using it because she didn't want to do our business. I think that's how it played out. From what I understand, that Amy called her. And she made it very clear that that was not her market.
Interesting. Too
Right.
bad.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
it is. Okay, I'll get that stuff off to you guys shortly.
Okay. Great. All right.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks,
Thank you very
guys.
much. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.